today's topic is creative freedom, who decides? And I kind of want to touch on internal freedom, but also external freedom. So can we just get like a little short introduction of maybe you?
Hello everybody, my name is Justin McKenzie. I'm a co-founder and some other title, creative director of Jazz Refreshed. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. So Jazz Refreshed is now an organisation, a national portfolio organisation. I started out as a weekly jazz promotion in West London, coming out of the Up Rock stable, which was a hip-hop label. But as things moved on and Up Rock became less and less, Jazz Refreshed took over, and we now have many facets to this organisation. So not just a night, we have a festival, we do touring, we have a record label, and various other things. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I'm sure as we talk more, you'll get more about what Jazz Refreshed is about.
Does the outer factors affect your creative freedom? You know, looking at, you know, what you do over in West for the festival, when you pick your artist to go to, is it called Southwest by Southeast?
South by Southwest.
Sorry, yeah, I'll never learn that one. But yeah, can you please tell us about that?
Yeah, just to pick up on what Randolph said, I come in back from a different angle. Randolph's an artist, I'm a promoter. So when we put on a festival, for instance the one we do at South Bank, we have, say, 8 or 9 acts, and there is that thing of headliner. And we made a conscious decision that we're not going to have a headliner, but naturally you have someone who you're going to put last because of whatever reason. But for the same kind of reasons that you're saying, we always say to our artists, look, you're here to represent you. So, you know, whatever time you're on, do you. And not in every circumstance you can't do that, I understand that, you know. But we really try to encourage, because our whole ethos is about promotion of the artist. And we're not there to make our festival look good, we're there to make you look good, and you to represent yourself. You have your merch on the side, you're going to sell, you know, you're going to mingle with the people after. So, and you do get egos where people are like, why am I not on last? You know, I should be the last. But often for us it's about flow rather than name. So it might be the most known person has a real slow style that we didn't want to end the night on. So we'll go with someone who's more lively to leave people wanting more. But it is a dilemma for a lot of artists, you know, in terms of how do I approach a gig, you know, where I'm placed and this kind of stuff. Regarding South by Southwest, which is a festival in Texas, have any of you been to South by Southwest? No. I'd encourage you to go. It's a really interesting festival. It's in Austin, Texas, every March. We went this year. And it starts off with tech, then it goes into music, then it goes into film. And as I was explaining to someone earlier, it's like, take Piccadilly, and every shop on this road has a venue playing music. So for that 2 weeks, or for that week of music, usually like Pret a Manger will actually be a venue for music. So people they go from venue to venue, you know, you're really kind of, you know, it's not something you feel you're a star. And if you are a star, you're kind of humbled because people just leave the gig when they want to leave and stuff like that. We're fortunate actually in the UK to have such fantastic musicians. You know, I'm saying that because I'm from here, but also the world is starting to recognise that. And so when we went to South by Southwest, they'd never had a jazz showcase, or a British jazz showcase, even more so. So we went out there, we brought our kind of alternative take, and again, the same thing was, it's about representing yourself. There were no headliners, so we really had to get into the minds of the artists to do you. We didn't want to influence what that is.
Yeah.
On the other side of that is a lot of the artists we work with, the performance, the music's great, but performance is something that we still have to draw out of them. You know, if you come to Jazz Fresh Weekly, you might hear incredible music, and you might see musicians who don't look like they're enjoying playing it. You know, so we always say, look, the audience have to buy into what you're doing. You know, as much as, you know, we see bands who are crap, you know, but they got life, they engage in the audience, and they create a rapport. So that is not equally as important, but it's very important. So in some respects, there is some coaching that goes, and I don't know if that is kind of taking them out of what they would usually do, but in certain circumstances, that's a good thing. Because, you know, bringing out the performance in artists, you know, to do their best every single time. It's kind of, I come from a DJ world as well, which is slightly different, where if you've got a main act DJing, don't play all your hits, because that's not who they come to see. You warm up, you know, you do alternative, try and, you know, think creatively to not play all the big hits. But when you're I see as a musician or a band, do you, because that's your music. They're not, the other bands are not going to play your music. And you being in the show, you know, if you're better than the band that's coming on, well, so be it. You know, that's my mentality. But I understand there are different motivations, and, you know, people are kind of, and you can get a bad name for doing them things in certain parts of the industry. But you know, coming from a promoter's angle, we're always like, you know, you need to do your music and let people believe your music, regardless of where you're playing, regardless of, you know, what you're doing, where you are in the line. If there's 5 people there, don't feel there's 5 people, so I must, you know, I'm going to be like, oh, it's 5 people and perform like that. No, you perform like there's 23,000 people there, you know, and you perform it, and you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's listening, and, you know, it's always important to give the people who come to see you what they want. So, you know, from our perspective, it's do you know, and do it to the best that you can do it, regardless of whatever.
Yeah. Is having a niche within a niche, is that a really good thing? Or is thinking about what your target audience wants the way to go? Like, where do you, like, I understand that it might not be clean cut, but it'd be interesting to kind of, again, from you guys here, and then I'd love to open it up to you guys to see what you think.
I know what from a personal perspective, I think the best music is made when people forget about the audience. And the reason I say that is because safe music is made when you think you're making it for an audience. Also, authentic music is made when you make it for yourself or your peers. You know, it's good to be checked. You know, if you're just kind of like locked in a room for 2 years and you come out of music and think you just put it out, that's also the kind of wrong end of the scale. Well, can be, might not be. But I feel that when people start to make things for the audience, just like if you're performing for audience as a DJ or whatever you're doing, if it's not authentically you get found out. And you end up doing things, it's like people who sign for labels and they get signed because they're great artists, they end up having to do music they didn't want to make, but they carry on doing it because they think they'll be successful. They get dropped because, you know, it wasn't good enough, because they're not doing them, you know, and it's a hard road because, you know, especially when you're in music that we do with jazz, because, you know, there's not great reward. So, you know, you haven't really got, which is kind of, in some ways, a bit of a level up, because, you know, you're not looking at something in terms of, I'm going to make $1 million out of this, how can I make $1 million? So you tend to be, I'm going to create what I want to create. Yeah. But when you start, what I find with, especially some of our heroes, from my heroes from the fusion era, they start to make smooth jazz that, you know, doesn't feel like them, but it's for a wider audience. And then the kind of, for me, the creative, what made them great, that spark, that kind of daring and that pushing, is gone. And maybe I'm being selfish looking at it from my own perspective in terms of what I like to hear, but I think the most innovative music comes out of people who are pushing boundaries and pushing their own limitations, as opposed to, I'm not saying you ignore the audience, because ultimately, sometimes, you know, the audience can be right. But know who your audience is. Who are the people that you respect their opinion? And it's not the mass market, otherwise you might just go and make pop. And there, you've got the mass market made, and go and do it. If you want to make a music in a niche or in a genre, find your voice. And your voice doesn't have to be, doesn't mean, you know, let me see how I can make my voice unique, I'm going to sing it in a strange way, you know. Find your voice and express it that way. Sounds kind of hokey, but to me, that's where the best music comes from. And as a record label, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, we're not looking for pastiche or, you know, that's going to make $1 million. That's, you know, but otherwise we do a different genre. So that's my take.